Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live match preview. We're looking ahead to the 8:30, 8:15 kickoff it is against Manchester City. And of course,
8:15, yeah.
we're just a few minutes away from the announcement of the team news, and we'll be looking through that. By way of me, myself, and Mike from the Unholy Trinity podcast. Welcome to the live stream again, Mike. Great to have you back on again.
Great to be on again, mate. Looking forward to it.
Glad you're looking forward to it. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to tonight, mate.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's a difficult game, of course it is. Especially after watching what we watched at the weekend against the Fulham side, they were struggling. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult game, of course.
Yeah, pretty daunting task. I mean, it's good. I think Carlo said that in his pre-match press conference yesterday that we'll be doing a lot more defending than we saw even in the Tottenham and Man United games. And do you think that's the right way of going about it? I feel like the teams who do this to Manchester City tend to have a better chance than the ones who don't.
Yeah, it's so difficult to think to know sort of from the outside looking and how to approach the game. You want us to be obviously a threat, of course you do, but then you need to sort of find the balance between being the threat maybe on the counter and not leaving yourself wide open because they'll just pick us apart. We know that we've got to have a bit of acceptance of where we are. You know, we should be challenging for Europe. We are challenging for Europe as things stand at the moment, but Man City are by far and away the best side in the league this season as well. So we've got to go in there yet with a bit of caution. But let's just not sit on our own 18-yard box for the whole 90 minutes because that won't do anyone any good. You know, we can't go in there just hoping for a 0-0. It's just not. It's for me. You've got to have a little bit of not so much fighting fire with fire, but a little bit of sort of really, mate. That's probably the best way to describe it is ambition. Let's not just sort of bow down to them. You know, obviously you respect them. Very, very good side, very strong throughout. You know, even if there's no Gundogan, which is rumoured. De Bruyne potentially is back in the squad, but we don't know.
Guerrero's back in the team, apparently.
Apparently so, yeah. So obviously they've got quality throughout, but doesn't matter who plays for them because they'll still do a good job. But let's show some ambition and see what we can get from the game.
Definitely. Let's see how. We've got a few fans tuning in. And Cuban says, "Hi guys, great to have you on. You're always tuning in here, and great to have you on. Hey up, mate. Reckon we'll get slapped here, boys. Thanks, hey up. Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus amongst the fan base as I've been looking in my social media during while I was in work today and stuff, looking at the news. But it's one of them. It's not. We can't be too pessimistic. I mean, we've got to just see what happens. But the news is out. The team news is out, and it is. Oh my goodness, God!
Still no Allen, not in the squad.
No Allen in the squad, but Delphi is. King doesn't start. I'm not being funny. I mean, I'll read this team out to you guys. You've got Pickford, Holgate, Keane, Godfrey, Mina, Dean. That says a lot about it, to be honest. Decore, Davis, Iwobi, Richarlison, and Sigurdsson. That looks like a bad team to me.
It's a very, very defensive-minded team. You know, as we just said a couple of minutes ago. You know, you look at and that side is obviously backing up what Carlo was saying. You look at how that side's going to set up. Obviously, no James, which there's obviously creativity gone straight away. Josh King, I didn't think he'd start based on what Carlo said, but I would like them to start. You know, on the counter, pace, power can cause a few problems on the bench. No Allen, which is a big miss. We thought he'd be back in. So we're going in there.
He actually was. He was an unused sub in the Fulham game.
He was. Yeah, he was. So surprised not to see him tonight. If he's fit, at least on the bench. But the talk was he was going to be good to go. So hopefully he's not had any kind of sort of reaction or breakdown in training. That's all we need, isn't it? So yeah, difficult task. Just got a little bit harder, I think, based on that side.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that at all, to be honest. What makes me worry is seeing the three names at the bottom: Iwobi, Richarlison, and Sigurdsson. Suggests another false nine. I don't know if I can take another one of them.
It doesn't. You know, the difficult thing when there's no Calvert-Lewin playing, when we haven't got a focal point in the middle of front, when in this kind of game where you're playing against real quality, you haven't got that pressure valve release, have you? So if you've got to go long, Keane, Mina playing long balls at times. Calvert-Lewin can win a foul. He can bring the ball down. He can bring players in. So when you've not got that, that's a concern.
No, I'm really concerned looking at this team. No Calvert-Lewin at all in the squad either, as we were mentioning the situation with no Allen at all. But yeah, it's quite a disappointing selection. Pickford straight back in the team as well. I'm not sure I agree with that. I thought Alton's done relatively well. What doesn't send the right message in my opinion. I mean,
sorry, I think for me, from a goalkeeping point of view, I
think
always
Pickford's
go
better in these kinds of games. I think.
Yeah, and I do understand why he's being brought back in. To be honest, I've also obviously had a decent game against Leeds. A few moments I thought against Spurs he wasn't great. Couldn't do a great deal against Fulham, but I don't think he's been as commanding as I thought he would be. I like to see him a goalkeeper's command in the air, which is not what we see with Jordan Pickford. But Alston's a big lad. He's 6'5", 6'6". He should be out there, corners, crosses coming in. Shout loud, catch the ball.
Yeah.
That's what he should be doing. And for me, he's been rooted to his line a little bit too much. So I'm not surprised, to be honest with you, that Jordan Pickford's back on the side.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. I wasn't sure whether it was the right move, but I think probably for this fixture, in terms of we'll probably have a lot of shots on goal. I think if it seemed to relish these sorts of games more so than the games where we have more of the ball ourselves.
Yeah.
We saw that in the first season when Allardyce was the manager, and these teams actually do well.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny how these kind of games can bring the best out in players, and they can perform. But it's a monumental task, I think, tonight to, with that side not having the quality that we are missing, certain players not being back who we thought would be back. So this is going to be a long 90 minutes, I think, judging by that.
Long, most certainly. The one positive thing, even though the bench looks pretty poor, is that we actually have named 9 substitutes and 8 outfielders, which is rare. Tyler Onyango was on the bench. I think a lot of people will probably be pleased to see that. I think a lot of people will be a lot less pleased to see Fabian Delph, and I can tell you that straight away because Aaron Koeman's put that up in the live chat. Delph with a crying face. I think the only people will be too pleased with that. Josh King's on the bench. I think we'll definitely see him at some point. He's the kind of player who I think we probably need to start in this game, but I know Ancelotti did suggest, like you say, Mike, that he wouldn't start, so that doesn't come as a surprise. James is on the bench, Bernard's on the bench, Niels Nkunku's on the bench. I haven't seen his name around the team sheet for a while either, so some interesting choices, definitely, and it's clearly not going down well in the live chat anyway, because Lenny plays, what a disastrous lineup. Cam says the team is dire, 5 at the back, we can never get out our half. Inky Squid, why should Sigurdsson start when he showed no loyalty? Coleman didn't play well, but at least he showed loyalty. When you say loyalty, Inky Squid, are you referring to sort of commitment in the performances? I'm assuming that's what he's getting at there. But again, we've seen this from Sigurdsson hundreds of times. He's such an inconsistent player. When he plays well, he does play well. When he plays badly, he plays atrociously badly. And you can't afford to have a passenger in a game against these. These are such a good side. One passenger and you could derail the entire game plan.
Yeah,
you've got to turn up today, Sigurdsson.
Yeah, it's going to be a big midfield battle. Looking at their side, De Bruyne only good enough for stuff for the bench, should I say? Aguero's on the bench, no Gundogan. So that midfield is where it's going to be won and lost for me. But it's a quality that they can bring off the bench, obviously, to if things aren't going their way, if it's tight, if it's a 0-0. That quality available to Guardiola is frightening at times. See Laporte's back in as well instead of John Stones. But as I said before, whatever side they put out, it was going to be a really, really tough game and a tough ask. we said Carlo said he was going to set up fairly defensively, more so than what we've seen previously, if that was even possible. But everyone's going to be switched on tonight, that's for sure. Everyone's got to be know the position. Tactically, it's got to be absolutely bang on. And it's got to be disciplined. And we say it all the time. Discipline is really the key word in any game. But you've got to be disciplined to beat the City side or to get something from the game. Sides have done it early in the season.
But you've also got to show it. You've also got to show energy, I think, and I'm not sure how much of that we've got, to be honest.
Yeah, of course, and that legs is a big thing, isn't it? Legs is an absolutely massive thing when it comes to our side and how we tick. And Decore and Allen have shown that over the course of the season, what they do give us. And when you don't have either of them in the team or one of them's not on the team,
it's a disaster, usually.
It is, yeah. I mean, Tom Davies, to be fair to him, has come in and done well. Gomez has shown it in certain games in recent weeks. He's done well, but he's not that kind of player. The two of them aren't that kind of player. Like Alan, he's just something different. He can break up play. He's someone who's on people's toes all the time. That's it. Yeah, and he's just busy all the time, full of energy, full of beans. When you've got that sort of in front of your back four and behind your front three, it's a great little fulcrum to have and for things to go through. And that's where we've missed him so much. To be honest with you, over the course of the last sort of 6-8 weeks. So this is a big ask, but Tom Davies, another chance today to show what he's all about. Decore, I was having a chat before with someone about Decore, whether he would actually start, because he must be close to having a game off. He must be close to that red zone in terms of being totally drained. And I think if Allen was maybe fit, we could have seen Decore maybe on the bench tonight. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting 90 minutes, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've seen the Manchester City team news out as well. Obviously, their team is Ederson, Walker, Diaz is back in, Laporte, Cancelo, Rodrigo Mahrez, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Sterling, and Jesus. So it's pretty much full strength. Aguero and De Bruyne both on the bench. They're nearly back to full strength there, and we're really up against it with this. I think our setup's very wrong, to be honest, but we'll see.
I just don't think we can afford to probably be too negative. I know it's really difficult because you always look to the previous game for some positivity, and there was nothing to take from the Fulham game in any way, shape, or form. To have a couple of shots on target, which were right down the keeper's throat, didn't really work at all against a side who were battling to get anywhere near surviving in the Premier League this season. There was nothing at all to take from that game. So when you're going from that to playing the best side in the league, there's going to be a lot of negativity surrounding the game anyway, I think. And a lot of people probably switched off since the game at the weekend, and obviously on Sunday, because I do it myself all the time when you just want to sort of put your head in the sand and not look at football for a couple of days until you actually need to. But we've seen what we can do at times this season, and we've been inconsistent is probably the best way to describe us. We've had a couple of decent runs. We got ourselves in the mix, and then we go on obviously a few poor runs as well in between. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was a decent performance from Everton today and we get something from the game. It's been that kind of season for us and for a lot of teams. So important that the players go out there and obviously be positive, but also to show a reaction. More importantly, because
definitely, I think, we need to see some sort of character after the display they put in the other day.
Yeah, we all deserve a reaction from the fans. It's as simple as that. We want to see them showing a bit of fight, a bit of spirit, and wanting to right a few wrongs from the weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll just go through the comments as well. A few people tuning in now. Great to see you all tuning in. Thanks for coming on. Stoddy says King should be starting. Stoddy also said Richarlison is poor up front. We'll have to wait and see. He was poor up front the other day. That was when he was playing as the main striker. We saw the false nine. We saw all kinds of formations the other day. But generally, Charlton hasn't played well as a lone striker. And I'd imagine if he is playing up front, that'll be where he plays today. If not, it's going to be a false nine, which is even worse. Gavin says it will be Gylfi in the same team. Hope we got just sit back and hope we don't just sit back all game and do nothing attacking wise. Yeah, it's like as we were saying before, we've got to show a bit of ambition, haven't we? It's going to be one of them. Gavin also said Moyes, Keane and Lookman should be in our squad, but Muppets let them go, full of potential. I think it's easy to say that, Gavin, obviously, but when we let them go, they weren't really showing that potential. So, I think we got good money for Lookman. Judging by the rumours from Fabrizio Romano today, we could get good money for Keane if he ends up leaving permanently in the summer. We'll have to just wait and see. But, yeah, I think Toffee Blue John sums up here. All I'll ask for is for the players to have a go at it. Fight for the shirt as long as I see some effort. You can't really ask for much more than that, can you? And that's all we ever really ask for, to be honest. If the players put up a fight against Fulham, we'd have won.
Yeah, I think that's it's always the bare minimum, isn't it? Really, in any kind of game, and all sides obviously have games where they don't perform and things don't go their way. But I think all that we ask for is make it obvious that there's players putting effort in there, and it was too obvious the players weren't at the weekend. That was the key thing. And if you want to make it at this club, we want to be successful. We want quality players, of course we do. But all we ask for as a starting point
is to work hard for this performance.
Yeah, it should be the same for any footballer. Every time you go out on the pitch, you should be putting in 100% effort. And I think sometimes it's an easy thing probably to say as about effort and commitments and stuff like that, because they are human in terms of they go through things outside of football and things I'm sure impact like they impact everyone. But I don't think players go through the same issues, all at the same time as was sort of it looked like at the weekend, where it looked like there was 11 players there who were going through.
You can't make up any kind of excuse for what we saw on Sunday.
Not at all. And the players aren't, the players know that, I'm sure that they do. We got the usual, Seamus Coleman saying about having a reaction, and the dressing room it was a horrible place at the weekend. But you had 90 minutes there to go and win that game, and put us right up there, and you didn't do it. And we've seen it so often this season where we're going into that kind of game, getting off obviously the game we've got tonight, where we should be picking up points and beating Fulham, West Ham, Newcastle, that kind of side, and we're not. And in the end, when we look back on this season, this is a season where it will cost us. It could cost us a European place. Let's get that right. So the players have got it now in this game. The pressure's on. This game was a free hit before Fulham. Now it's not a free hit, because I don't think if we lose the game, say now 2-3, 4-0, the fans are not going to be anywhere near as forgiving as we would be if we beaten Fulham and we showed a little bit of heart and effort, in my opinion, anyway.
Absolutely. Just Aaron Coon pops up. Gylfi better perform, no more looking like a compass, pointing in every single direction. I'll have to stop you there, you can't look like a compass. Even a compass points forwards at some point. Joshua Eardley says, why do you guys think Alan isn't in the squad? After Ancelotti said he'd be in contention to play tonight. I don't know if he's saving him for the derby or there's an injury. I don't really know, to be honest. It is a surprise to me to not see him on the bench. But we'll keep looking into any rumours. He says, Alan now hoping to be fit for the derby, for goodness sake.
It's just, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange, that one, especially with him being in the squad. But he was
sitting on the bench against Fulham the other day.
Yeah. So you do wonder what's gone on there. But I'm sure more will come probably post game as well. But we could have really done with Alan firing on all cylinders tonight. Tough ask. We've been out for so long, of course it would have been. But he's definitely one of the first names on the team sheet when he's fully fit. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I'm not looking forward to tonight, but I'm especially not looking forward to the weekend if we haven't got Alan or there's other players on like you say running on fumes like Davis or Decore. We could be in serious trouble. These
of course.
It's just
What he said there,
difficult.
Carlos said about it in terms of Alan not wanting to risk him in this game, but obviously he's got the weekend in mind. I think maybe he thinks that if he throws him into this game where it's high intensity, defending for probably large parts of the game, he's going to be called upon probably more than he would like. Probably thinks it's not worth risking him. But even in that situation, just throw him on the bench then if that's the case. Just have him on the bench for say 15, 20 minutes at the end if we need him. But yeah, it's. I think the injury that he had as well. It's one of those you don't want to be going in. Full pelt in this kind of difficult game where we haven't got a lot of the ball. So I understand the decision as long as we see him at the weekend. If we don't see him at the weekend, then obviously there's been some kind of breakdown there in terms of the injury, and he's had another setback, which is something that we could really do without.
Yeah, definitely can do without it. It's just one of them. I think we need all the luck we can get going into games like this one, and definitely in terms of going into a derby at Anfield, I just don't really. It's one of them after the. I think, like you say, if we were coming into this off the back of a win over Fulham, everyone would be a little bit a bit more buoyant, maybe seeing how we got on. But I just think it's hard to find any confidence in or belief in this team to succeed in a game where it's going to call for a very high caliber of performance, and coming off the back of one of the most low caliber performances we've seen all season the other day.
Yeah, it's, as I said, we always look to the previous game for positives and sort of the energy to go into the next game. And I noticed a lot of people had sort of switched off sort of post Fulham, probably for the good of. And it sounds really might seem a bit extreme, but in the current climate especially, probably it's better for people's mental health if they did sort of switch off, because we know how football can really engulf and take over people's lives,
Consume, yeah,
especially.
it does.
Yeah, it does. It does, mate. And that we've all been there. I'm probably one of the worst for that, especially over the years. I think I've learned better now how to deal with Everton and our performances. And I think but I still think it's better to sort of wait, sit back, and then sort of reflect on it maybe the next day, and try and not let it sort of consume you too much. But the positivity that we got from the Spurs game sort of was gone, and was put out straight away at the end of that Fulham game. Whatever we could have taken from Spurs, which was aside, okay, we can see the 4 goals, but we scored 5. We had setbacks in the game. We showed real heart and determination to come back and win that game, and
If we'd have showed a fraction of that against Fulham, we'd have probably got at least a draw. You know what I mean? I think
you just didn't take the game to Fulham at any point. There was not a point in the game where we were lucky to go in 0-0 at half time. I thought we were appalling first half, and you think, okay, get in the changing rooms, get a rocket up them. Second half will be different. We show a lot more energy. We'll be progressive. We'll be on the front foot. And we started the second half exactly the same way as the first half ended. And they scored in scored in 3 or 4 minutes, and then that set the tone then. And you could see that the players then deflated, didn't know what to do. And it was just a really poor performance. And probably for me, we've had a few shockers this season, but that was probably our worst performance of the season, which is frightening, really, when we've seen some of the stuff we've played. And we've gone from the sublime at times, because we've had some really, really good performances. Even recently, Leeds away, I thought it was a great away performance. I thought we looked good, we looked strong, we looked dangerous. We could have scored more goals. So we have that performance.
Wolves game as well, like games like that when I thought we did really well.
Yeah, great. Go back to start of the season, the likes of the West Brom and the Brighton games. Spurs away is our best performance of the season by a country mile, in my opinion. First game of the season. Even United away, when you think we're down and out, and we pop up with an equaliser last minute. So that was recently. So the players have got it in them, and that's the most frustrating thing. They've got quality, they've got heart and determination. Don't know when they're beaten at times, but then you see that and you think, come on. If it just goes from one extreme to the other with us at times, and I think if you want to be successful, the most important thing is consistency. And if we'd shown any consistency to date, we'd probably be second or third. That's where we would be, and we just haven't shown it. And that's the level that we've got to get to. But I think the frustration with the fans this season is it's an opportunity, isn't it? Because of the way the league is and how consistent sides are, it's a massive opportunity to get Champions League football. There's no reason why we can't.
I was making this point. If we were 7th in the league as we speak, if we were 7th in the league and it was the so-called Sky Six above us in the table, you'd go, not that bad a season.
Yeah.
But it's because the idea of a West Ham or a Leicester finishing above us makes it look even more like an opportunity missed if we don't succeed.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's a disaster if we let one of them teams finish above us. I think Leicester are probably further ahead of us in terms of where they're at. I can maybe live with that. They did a lot better than us last season, but if West Ham finish above us, then that's a disaster of a season.
Especially where West Ham have come from. I think they started the season pretty well, and they sort of dropped off and went down to mid-table. And then we've shot ourselves in the foot, haven't we? There's games, as I say, where we should have been winning, picking up points that we haven't done, and we've let these sides back in. Arsenal now, if they start to string things together again, they'll be right up there and going above us. We could find ourselves mid-table within a couple of weeks if we're not careful. We need to. We've got difficult games tonight, difficult game obviously at the weekend as well. So we've got to be now taking it upon ourselves as a side to think, come on, look at where we are, look at where we can get to this season, because it's not going to happen again for me. In terms of it being like this next season. Hopefully we should see fans back in the ground. Hopefully so. Fingers crossed. We get more than sort of 2,500 at that, or 2,000 Goodison Park. Let's hope so. So this is the big chance, and let's not blow it. We've got quality there. We know we're short in certain areas. We know we're short in terms of quality in the squad, but there is enough quality there to be getting at least Europa League. And as I say, if we decide to pull our finger out and decide to play football that we know that we can play, there's no reason, even at this particular point, why we can't get Champions League. But they've got to start putting a run of wins together. Otherwise, as I say, who's going to throw it all away?
Yeah, I think a couple of people in the live chat have made some really good points. Gavin Cunningham says we play the worst type and style of footy in the league on par with Burnley's. It's getting bored, and why can't we just have a go, especially to teams like Fulham, West Ham, Newcastle, as we've said before. It's shit. And it is, because, I feel like I agreed with the football wasn't great to watch in December, but we were getting results. And you can live with it when it delivers the results. But when you put in those kinds of displays and you don't get results and you lose to poor sides, then something has to change. And I don't care, it doesn't matter who the manager is, even if it's Carlo Ancelotti, he can't be tolerating performances like the Fulham game, and the fact of the matter is we've seen it on a number of occasions now. The Newcastle game was only 2 weeks before that when we did the same thing, and West Ham was not 2 months ago. We did it again. It's happening far too often, and it can't be tolerated if we want to, achieve even Europa League. We can't be accepting performances like this.
No, of course. I mean, whether we're in the ground or not, and I think Carl alluded to the fact. I think it was yesterday. If the fans were there, they wouldn't be having it. Well, we're not having it whether we're there or not, basically. But we would have been very, very loud. I think in our response at the weekend, if that would have happened with us being there, the players have got to stand up. It's as simple as that. We've got a lot of the pieces of the jigsaw in place now at the club. Things are looking up. We've got a great manager. Marcel Brands looks like he's signed a new contract. Bramley Moore's getting closer by the day. It's all a lot of positives to going around the club, and we've got to match it on the pitch now. We know we need patience. We know it's not an overnight job, and I think sometimes when we lose that kind of game against Fulham or Newcastle or West Ham, whoever it is, I think sometimes we get lost in the fact that we've lost that game and we forget what this journey is all about. I know it's easy to say that, but we do have to sort of take a step back and think, okay, well, where are we at the moment? Who's at the club? Where are we looking to go? Are we doing better than we were 12 months ago? Yes. Is the caliber of player at the club better? Yes. So it's a long road. It's a big job, of course it is. But like I said, it all goes back to, is there an opportunity this season to do something? Yes, there is. So we've got to grasp it, and that's where the fans, I think, are getting, they're probably a little bit fed up and frustrated. The fact that we're not taking it upon ourselves to
We're
really,
throwing an
really
opportunity up the wall.
massively, massively, and that's what we need to address.
I think that's what's really depressed me lately. Harry Jones says, has anyone else just lost some of their interest in this season? Now, I haven't missed a game in years, but I'm just not really enjoying watching Everton play recently. I'd agree, except the whole all eggs in one basket aspect of the FA Cup, because obviously we've just progressed, and you know, we're 2 games away from a cup final. If we win them, you still got to put a lot of I think that means a lot to the fans, and I'd like to think we keep up our performance from the Spurs game in the next FA Cup game, which is obviously against City. It's another very good point, of course, from this evening's game. It's a bit of a dress rehearsal, isn't it, for the cup quarter final? See how we fare.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm sure City's side will be probably different on that particular day. Probably could be better than what we're seeing tonight from the off, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's a dress rehearsal. The FA Cup is massively important. We want not more than to win a trophy, of course. In terms of the enjoyment of football, I think the current sort of predicament that we're all in going through this pandemic, I think not being at the game, I'll never get used to not being at the game. I'll never get used to watching football on the television every single weekend. I certainly won't get used to BT Sports and their commentators. That's for sure.
Jesus wept, Jesus wept.
But that's another matter. But yeah, I think it's been a big adjustment for everyone, for all fans, players, managers alike, to get used to playing football without 35, 40,000 fans in the ground. Because, fans can change games. Of course, fans impact games.
I think our fans can change the game more than most as well. I feel like our wretched home form this season is very much down to the lack of fans. You saw our form at home pick up during that month period when we had some fans in the ground.
Yeah.
And then it's instantly gone off a cliff since then. We haven't won a home game since in the league.
Of course, I mean it's huge, and like you say, it's probably some clubs and some fans will say that they impact games more than others. But I think our fans do, whether it's good or bad, in terms of how the game's going. You'll certainly hear our fans, regardless, and the players will know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and there's no hiding place when the fans are in the ground. So it's been a big adjustment, and one which we never thought we'd have to make. And we've had to make it. And as I said, hopefully now we're coming towards the end of at least having fans in every single week in some capacity, whether it's 5,000, 6,000. We're getting there. We are getting there, and there's certainly hope and positivity there. But we do need that. And I understand the point over the enjoyment of football now. It's a totally different game when you've not got, whether you're watching it on the telly and there's fan, you can hear obviously proper fan noise, or you actually go into the game week in, week out, because it's a social event, meeting obviously friends, fans, obviously singing.
I think it's a lot easier to get over getting beat when you can go and have a pint with your mate afterwards.
Possibly so. You can sit there and you can do your counselling session, so to speak, post match. You get the pub, get a pint, whatever you want. And you sit down, you talk it through, and it sounds crazy to some people who probably don't really follow football or sport, but that's what it's like, isn't it? It's a big part of the match going experience, of having that time after the game to have a talk about what's gone right, what's gone wrong, reasons for it, go your separate ways, and go again next week. And that's what it's like. And
what else I think? Just a really good point we've just made when we're talking about, like you said, the counselling session in the pub afterwards.
Mm.
We don't have that right now, so I think everybody and his dog is taken to Twitter and 100%. Vent because they can't vent to the mate in the pub.
Yeah,
and you're seeing some absolutely absurd shouts coming up on social media lately.
Yeah, it's such a valid point. Such a valid point that, to be honest with you, in terms of not being able to use friends, family, mates you go to match with as a soundboard. And so what way do people get frustration out? They take us to social media, and you see some really strange opinions, comments. I saw one about Marco Silva getting back in
Yeah,
as opposed to Ancelotti. It's just, it's things like that. It's strange times, but real valid points. Social media's definitely changed over the last 12 months in terms of the road that's gone down and what people now sort of use it for. So it's certainly changed. But as I say, hopefully we've turned that corner. So when we hit, the back end of this season, start of next season, we should see some more fans in the ground. That's for sure.
I like to think so. I can't see much more of this. I'm not going to lie.
No.
It's just one of them. I think what disappoints me most is that our fans more than most influence proceedings, for better or worse. But I feel like we give the players a bit of a rock up the backside that it might have got us over the line, might have got us a point at worst in the West Ham game, probably would have won us the other two that we've lost recently as well.
Yeah, I think some players as well thrive on it. I think the likes of Richarlison's probably suffered, and this is not all his fault, but I think some players love and they feed off the fans. Richarlison, the fact that the fans sing his name every single week, he's got a song and things like that. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. So he plays for the people. He's very much a man of the people, and he conducts himself off the pitch. And we've not seen the best of Richarlison. I think probably that's one of the main reasons. Also, the fact that the service against Fulham was absolutely pathetic, and it wasn't Richarlison's fault. He wasn't in the game. But yeah, certain players absolutely love having the crowd there, and it is to their detriment when there isn't fans there to watch them, cheer them on, make a noise. And we've seen it with various players this season who were being impacted by not having fans in the ground.
I feel like even many of the players who we aren't best pleased with, you Filthy Tiggertons, maybe, for instance, I feel like maybe he's not necessarily someone like Richarlison who feeds off the fans, but I think he's somebody who needs the fans to motivate him.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, Sigurdsson's a funny one, isn't he? Because if you think back to, it was the first game post-lockdown against Leicester when he scored that sort of look the other way penalty. He's done the same ever since, and he scored them all. So I wonder whether he'd actually try that if he had 40,000 fans at Goodison Park, because I just don't know whether he'd have the nerve to do it. But it does switch. It switches some players on. I think almost if you think there's no one there watching, then some players just a little bit more maybe too relaxed.
And that's the best way.
Game.
Absolutely.
And then you can see. I don't want to sort of single out Gylfi Sigurdsson because of a few of them have probably done it.
Many a player.
Yeah, they just stroll around, don't they, and go through the motions because they think no one's watching, and they need to remember there's millions of people around the world watching on whether it be Sky, BT, whatever it might be. So yeah, it can work either way, I suppose, with fans there. But let's face it, football without fans is not what it is. You know what I mean? At the moment, football without fans is a million times better than what we're seeing. That's for sure.
Absolutely,
football with fans is better than what we're seeing. Got that the wrong way
around.
You get what I mean. You get what I mean. Yeah, football without fans is certainly not better than with fans, and we need to. I think when we look back on this time, in maybe a year or so, we look back and we'll be more appreciative of being able to go and support our team, whether it's local lads down the park, non-league teams, Everton, whoever it might be. I think people will be more appreciative of what we actually do have and what we can go and do. And I, for one, can't wait for that particular day, to be honest.
Absolutely. Gavin Cunningham says, pisses fans off. Look what Moyes is doing with the funds and players they've got. Never thought I would say, but West Ham play better footy than us. They play better footy than us most of the season, to be honest. Which is, quite frankly, a disgrace. I mean, I'm not sure how much of that is down to management. I think it's more down to we've got some gifted players here, but like I say, I think they're lacking in motivation. Whether Carlo can do something differently, I don't know. But like you say, we're not even allowed in the actual ground. Never mind going to the training ground to see what happens.
Yeah, I think probably the concerning thing for some fans is we saw this. I think back to last season, to say post lockdown, and how much the players sort of the season just sort of pitted out in the end, didn't it? And
Yeah.
we were so poor in so many games. And there's a concern that might happen again. But you've got to look at, where we were when we came back after lockdown to where we are now, position-wise. FA Cup, obviously still within the FA Cup quarter-final. Massive chance to do something there. The players surely have got the motivation and the foresight to think, we can get Europe if we push on. We've got potential. I know it's a big ask. We've got potential to maybe get to Wembley and win a trophy. So I think slightly different to last season, but certainly in the back of people's minds, I think is how much the players did just sort of coast the last sort of couple of months when we came back after lockdown, and that's a concern. We don't want to be in that position where we've put ourselves within striking distance and it just all fades away. We lose the City in the cup in the back end of March. By that time, if we lose a couple more games between now and then, we could be sitting mid-table and your season's done. And we don't want to be there again. We say, we should be pushing those top positions in the table and winning trophies. It's that simple. It doesn't matter, for me, how many games you have to play over the course of the season. We should always be challenging and always wanting to get into Europe and always want to win trophies. And that determination's got to be within the players and obviously the manager. Being there, done that. Surely we've got the right manager there to bring that kind of thing home.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the case of, like you say, it's letting things peter out. And I reckon whatever happens, we should be going into, whatever the last game, hopefully it's the FA Cup final, but even if it's the final Premier League game of the season, we should be going into our last game of the season with something to play for.
Yeah, of course.
Whether that's top 4, top 7, Europa or Champions League or the FA Cup final to win the cup, whatever it is, we should be going into the final game of the season with something to fight for. You shouldn't have to see the season. There's no excuse for our season to be over with games to spare.
And that's the problem, isn't it? When we are in that position, that's when we see our players then just sort of start strolling around the pitch more and more, and the season then just tails off. When there's nothing on the table, you don't see the players putting the effort in, and we've got to be now going forward. Every single season, we have got to be fighting. Last game of the season, like you say, whether it is an FA Cup final, whether it's a chance of securing Europe, we've got to be fighting for something, and have the players there that one want to be there to bring that success, and two got the quality to bring that success. And that's the next big step, isn't it? The next big step is to get quality in every single position and back up quality in every single position. There's no point in having players who are guaranteed to play week in, week out, and there's no one behind them pushing them, because that way, that's where complacency just comes in all the time, and that's when you do lose out on Europe and trophies, etc.
Seen far too much of that lately this season and last season.
It's massively so. I mean, we said to me about getting a striker in the January transfer window. Obviously, Josh King came over the line, and we haven't seen much of him just yet. I think he's looked quite bright when he's come on. Unlucky not to get a goal against Fulham with a goal that was disallowed for just being offside. But there's still obviously, if we fast forward to the summer, questions around Moise Kean. Does he come back in? Rumours are Carlo does like him. He thinks he's got a future. A lot depends on the player. He sampled now Champions League football, scored against Barcelona last night. Does he want to come back to Everton? Who knows? Is his attitude right? Who knows? But there's other key areas. Goalkeeper. Keep on saying about goalkeeper. I'm not here to slate Jordan Pickford or Robin Olsen. And it's not about that. But you've got to look at the quality on show. Have we got a goalkeeper that we can win trophies with? The answer is no. And every successful side has a top quality goalkeeper. So we've got to go out there. And for me, one of the biggest priorities this summer is to go out there and get a goalkeeper who is top notch. I'll be paying decent money for a goalkeeper. I mean, the likes of Donnarumma, I know he's going to be on a free, and the chances of getting someone like him, I'm sure are quite slim. But we've got Ancelotti there. If he can sell it to him, get the lad in, young lad, absolute quality, and that's the level we should be looking at. None of these sort of, internationals who play every other week, been on the bench for the previous clubs coming in. And yeah, Olsen's decent. Though he's okay, but is he going to take us to the next level? No, he's not. And that's just being brutally honest. And we've got to have more of that, where we're getting quality players coming in, whether they be the starting goalkeeper, centre halves, whatever, back up, because then they're getting pushed every single week in training. They're getting pushed to perform in a game, and that brings success.
Yeah, definitely. Harry Jones has gone a bit extreme here, and feel like I'm watching an Italian Sam Allardyce the way Carlo has them playing at the moment. I mean, Sam Allardyce, as he said. But that's one of them. I felt like back in December, and I thought needs must, and sometimes you've got to do what you got to do to get results. And I feel like when it delivers results, it's fine. It's when it's not delivering results. If we play Allardyce football tonight and get a point, I don't think anyone will moan. But when we play it and we lose 2-0 to Fulham, then people are going to kick off.
Yeah, of course. It all depends, obviously, on the opposition, doesn't it? And I think we approach. Yeah, it is, and we approached the Fulham game totally wrong. And I'm sure Carl will look back and think, "Yeah, I got that wrong." But who am I to give Ancelotti any kind of advice? What do I know compared to him? And the answer is nothing. It's very easy for us looking from the outside in to say that the manager got it wrong. He should have set up a different way. Should have played this player. Should have played that player. We don't know what's happened in training. We don't know what's going on off the pitch. So it's a difficult one. But I think if we sort of come out of tonight's game unscathed and pick up a point, for example, it'll be seen as a tactical masterclass. It happened at Wolves, didn't it? When we had no striker on the pitch, and it's what's this?
What is this? Yeah,
and we were exceptional for the bulk of the game. So it's one of them, isn't it? You trust the manager to he knows what he's doing. Of course he does. So he knows more than we do. He's put out a side tonight. It's quite clear that what he's going to try and do. We're going to try and be difficult to beat. We're going to try and be disciplined. The concern, and probably the concern for him, is okay. Well, when we do get our chances, how are we going to get the chances, and what are we going to do? And I think set piece is the key. Having Keane and Mina back in there means that when we get sort of free kicks on the angle or corners or what have you, make them count. We have done for most of the season.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just say, but it's going to be regardless of that, we've got to trust what the manager does. As frustrating as things are in terms of what we see as personnel and who we thought would start the game and what our opinions were, it doesn't really matter, because I said this earlier on today on Twitter. I've given up second guessing what Carlo's going to do, because he always throws in some kind of curveball, over his selection, his formation, or personnel, whatever it might be. But let's just back the lads. Let's see how we get on. It could be a game we look back on and think, yeah, setup was spot on. We come away with a draw, or we won the game, and hats off to Ancelotti for getting it right.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. I think a lot of the time it's probably not the case of Carlo getting it wrong. It's a case of he might not have done. He might have been able to do something better, but I feel like he's generally, he's a very intelligent manager. I feel like a lot of the time it's a case of the players not interpreting what he wants or not delivering what he asks for.
Yeah, it's execution, isn't it? Execution's always key, and you trust in the players that you're putting on the pitch. You've worked with them all week on a particular thing, on a formation, whether it be set pieces. So all you can do as a manager is teach them a plan, as I say, a formation, tactics, whatever it might be. You can drill it into them for say 7 days, but it's up to them to go out on the pitch and execute what they've learned, basically, and what they know and what they're being asked to do. And some things managers can't control. It's that simple. But I've said this in the past: if if players can't get up for playing for Carlo Ancelotti, then they're in the wrong job, really, aren't they? Because it doesn't get much better as a manager than playing for this particular manager.
Yeah, I feel like some players don't know how blessed they are to be managed by Carlo Ancelotti. I feel like some of these players just can't grasp it, and if you can't grasp that, you haven't grasped football, have you?
No, no, of course, of course. But it's I think a lot of it stems from the frustration in terms of us being starved of success, wanting us to do better. And if we're all brutally honest, we've seen progression. We're all happy with the manager. That's it. Well, 99.9% of us are happy with the manager. We're happy with where the club's going. And results are not going to be instantaneous, but we always want them to be, regardless of obviously the talk of patience and taking a step back. When we're in the moment and watching a game, we want that. We want us to win every single game we play in.
Oh, we want to win every single game. We know that can't happen, but we just want to see them compete in every single game, not necessarily win. Just try.
Yeah, try.
At least try and win.
Yeah, said it earlier on. The least that we ask for as an Everton fan is players to put the effort in. That they want to wear the shirt and they're working hard. Listen, if the players do it tonight and you can see that they've put effort in, they are putting the foot in, they are closing down, they are playing a bit of a press. Then whatever way it goes, you take your hat off and you say, listen, you've reacted there. There's been a response. You've backed
step
up
in the right direction,
Yeah, of course, and that's all that we want to see. But that should be the bare minimum that every single player puts in, and the bare minimum that we expect as a fan base. But like I say, difficult. But there's no reason why, regardless of what we think about the personnel who were starting, no reason why we can't get something from the game. We've got to believe that. Otherwise, what's the point in playing football?
Absolutely, it's like that's what I mean. I think that's what a lot of people have been saying, like in the chat and on social media as well, that they're not bothered, and that's when that's when it's a real problem, because the fans, a lot of the time, the mood around the fans reflect the performances. If the performances look like the players aren't bothered, then why should fans? We invest a lot more into the club than they are. You feel like you're getting shortchanged whether you're going to the game or you're not going to the game.
Mm. I think gone are the days, aren't they, in terms of for the majority anyway of players having maybe an affinity or an affection towards a club, because football has evolved over time, and in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, especially when money is really ramped up obviously in the Premier League, football has changed. And you don't really see, a lot of players who maybe are committed suicide. At the end of the day, it's a job. You get paid for it, and they move between employers. That's how some footballers will see it. As a fan base, and as not just ourselves, any fan base around the world, we're emotionally attached to our club. Like you said, then we invest heavily, whether it be going to the game, paying for season tickets, merchandise. Emotionally, we're invested. That's what makes isn't it? The fact that we got the football, and we all look forward to that Saturday or Sunday, and going the game, watching our team and what have you. And a lot of players aren't in that position, because a lot of players obviously aren't fans of the club. But regardless of that, there should still be a professionalism that when you go and do your job, you put your best effort in, and that's all that we ask for. That's all that we ask for. Show that you care is what we like to think and what we like to say. And let's hope that they show that they care tonight. That's for sure.
Definitely, I think that's the big thing. I feel like players, even when we play badly, show that they care. I think for players to really prove that they care, they need to be putting the same effort in on the training pitch as well as they do on a Saturday on the football pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it shows in various ways. I mean, obviously, Carlo and the staff see, don't they, every single training session, who's putting it in, who's not putting it in, what the attitude is like, who's got a willingness to sort of run through walls for the manager and the club. So they see a lot more than we do, and all we can do as a fan base is make a snap judgment on a game day, isn't it? When we're watching the game, we can say, well, who we think is actually showing a little bit and trying hard, and who's not. So we don't know the whole story, of course we don't, but I like to think that what we do see does give us a good idea of who wants to be there, who wants to work for the club, who wants to improve, and who wants to be successful with the club. But it's one of those. It's so difficult now, even even with obviously all the cameras and social media and media and what have you, to get a real grip of the players and what actually goes on. You know, back in the day, you'd probably socialise with players down the pub and go in the game. You'd probably get the same bus and things like that. So times have moved on, of course, but you'd like to think that. I know Marcel Brands is very keen on getting the right player in who fits the club. Not just the fact that they're a good player, but understands the ethos and the tradition and the history and buys into all of that when they sign him. So, you know, you're trusting him and Carl to get the right player in. But like you said already, it's up to the players to execute any kind of plan.
Yeah, well, it's one of them. We literally just need the players to, like as I said before, just show that they're up for it. That's all we want. We want players to be up for it every single game, regardless of fitness levels. If you see players given everything that they have got, then you can't complain. You know, we all want to win, and we'll be disappointed if we don't. But you know, if a player gives everything, you can still be proud.
Yeah, and that's, as I say, hopefully we can look back on tonight and we see that kind of performance from the team collectively as a unit. The disciplined, obviously difficult to beat, but you know, just showing a little bit of effort and commitment and wanting to be playing for the club and working hard for the shirt. And it's very basic. It's a very simple message, and you know, we haven't got to be scientific about it. But if they do that, then you know, at least then you're getting something positive, which we couldn't get from the Fulham game and games that we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, and obviously we've got the derby after this, so you need some sort of platform to build on to go into that as well. So, you know, there's plenty riding on this game, whatever the result.
Yeah, this game, as I said, it's gone from being a bit of a free hit if we would have beaten Fulham to, for me, I think we need to try and get something from the game to go into the weekend against Liverpool, you know, on a little bit of a wave, you know, with a little bit of positivity. Because I hate saying it, but the derby's a winnable game. You know, going to Anfield is not like it was in
Well,
previous seasons.
I'm glad you're sitting there.
Yeah,
I
well,
wouldn't come up
I
with that
believe it
one.
is. You know, it's funny because we don't know obviously what Everton is going to turn up. We don't know who's going to be available. Um, but I do think that we can go there and cause them problems. You know, we don't have Calvert-Lewin back. We hope Alan's fit for the game. Probably see Hammers drop back in there as well from the off. And we can cause them problems. You've seen worse sides go to Anfield and do it. You know, Brighton, Burnley, for example. They are beatable. You know, in terms of the defensively, they don't look great. They've got obviously two new centre halves who've been brought in, but there's obviously they've got Henderson who's been playing centre half. And they look ropey as hell at the moment. I know they won obviously against Leipzig,
European
but
game, yeah.
there's a massive chance for Everton there. And again, it's all about belief, having the right attitude, and not freezing
Commitment,
on the big stage.
commitment as well. Just give everything you've got. Even derbies, you know, derbies of all games against Liverpool. I mean, even then, some of these players don't seem to show the level of commitment required for these games.
It's a fine line between probably commitment and whether it's sort of nervousness, anxiety, and mentality is the key. And you've got to have players who probably been there, done that, understand what derbies are all about, but have also played in high pressure situations. And some players just can't deal with that, whether we like it or not. Some players, especially when he put an Everton shirt on, he sort of freeze in that kind of situation, and they don't express themselves. They go into the game, they play within themselves, and we don't want to see that. You know, we want to see players, you know, putting the foot in. It's making a Merseyside derby. There's been too many Merseyside derbies in recent years where we've just bent over and accepted defeat, or they just sort of, there's been no kind of tackle thrown in, no kind of sort of. I'm not advertising for animosity, but you know, these are the two local rivals. You've got to play on a knife edge. You've got to play with a little bit. You know, you've got to be in the face and want to win the game, and you want to ruffle a few feathers. And we haven't seen that, I don't think, for a number of years. You know, and that's what we need to get back to. For me, yeah, have the quality and the guile to go and win the game, but have a little bit of nastiness as well. You know what I mean?
Definitely been
It's
that the
a
nastiness.
Merseyside
We'll
derby.
need to see a bit of that tonight as well, I think.
100%.
But
Yeah.
let's see how we get on anyway. Obviously, we're coming towards the kickoff now. We're going to leave it at that. Toffee Blue John just put siren Clacton. So I'll talk to you to wrap this one up. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for joining us tonight. And of course, tune into the match reaction after the game. I'm going to be joined by Terry McAllister after the game for the match reaction. God forbid what happens. Let's see what happens. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Toffee Blues, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you, and we'll see you later.